The Pope's voice, crying out in the desert. The successor of Peter, who in recent years has prophetically warned of the Third World War already in the offing, follows in the footsteps of his predecessors and stands with the innocent, fighting evil with good. Reporter Andrea Tornelli. At the Angelus on Sunday, 13 March, the 9th anniversary of his election as Bishop of Rome, Francis unequivocally spoke about the barbarity of the killing of children, of innocents, that is taking place, urging a halt to the massacre, an end to what he called the unacceptable armed aggression against Ukraine. The Pope also noted that those who support violence by justifying it with religious motives profane the name of God, who is only the God of peace. Even before the invasion of the Russian army began, Francis had said at the Angelus on 20 February, how sad it is when peoples who are proud to be Christians see others as enemies and think of waging war against each other. It is very sad. He also asked that Ash Wednesday, when the Lenten journey began, be dedicated to fasting and prayer for peace. The day after the outbreak of the conflict, after the first bombings of Ukraine, the Pope personally went to the embassy of the Russian Federation to the Holy See to present all of his concerns about the war to the representative of the Kremlin, urging for the pursuit of the path of negotiation and for civilians to be spared. At the Angelus then on Sunday, 6 March, Pope Francis also highlighted the reality of the hypocrisy of the Russian government, which insists on calling this war a special military operation, not even trying to mask its true nature and the raw reality behind the word games, that of a war of aggression. To make concrete his personal closeness to the victims and to the millions of displaced persons fleeing the war, the Bishop of Rome has sent 2 cardinals to bring help and support to the refugees and to those who generously welcomed them. Meanwhile, on several occasions, Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin has expressed the Holy See's willingness to assist in any way possible, in any form of mediation, and has asked Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to cease attacks and to guarantee genuine humanitarian corridors. Vatican diplomacy keeps repeating that it is never too late to initiate real negotiations, and it is never too late for a ceasefire in a war of incalculable and unrelenting consequences, and that risk leading to a terrifying escalation of war, which will destroy the world. In recent weeks, Pope Francis has been the subject of some criticism from those who hoped that in his public statements he would explicitly mention the name of Vladimir Putin and Russia, as if the words of the pastor of the Universal Church were supposed to reflect the dictates of a television news set list. Since this did not happen, the voice of the Pope was not given much attention, as if his appeals did not correspond to the desired cliché of the pontiff, chaplain of the West, ready to enlist God and bless war in his name. There are those who have accused the Pope of silence for not having explicitly named Putin, forgetting that when the war began, the pontiffs never called the aggressor by name and surname, not out of cowardice or out of excess of diplomatic prudence, but in order to not close the door, in order to always leave a crack open to the possibility of stopping evil and saving lives. Even St. John Paul II, born in the martyred nation like Poland, victim of Nazism and communism during the war in Kosovo in 1999, never named the perpetrators of ethnic cleansing, always keeping a channel of contact open with Serbia. The Holy See believed that efforts should be made to put an end to the massacres against the Albanian population, even as it deplored the grief and wounds caused by the massive recourse to NATO bombing. Pope St. John Paul II did not even name the Western heads of state who, in 2003, wanted to wage war against Iraq on the basis of false information about weapons of mass destruction. He tried, in some cases, to stop the attacks, the ethnic cleansing and the wars. He tried to encourage the opening of humanitarian corridors and to ensure that no stone was left unturned to avoid the use of arms. This does not mean, and has never meant, supporting the aggressors or putting them and the attacked on the same level. It is paradoxical, then, that we forget these pages of our recent history, wanting to explain to the Bishop of Rome what right words to use, after years of disregarding the words that he actually uttered countless times, warning against the race for nuclear rearmament, against arms trafficking, against war and terrorism, against an economy that discards and kills, against the destruction of God's creation. The Pope's inner voice crying out in the desert in the 9 years of his pontificate, Pope Francis has spoken many times about the Third World War that is already underway, even if it is in fragments. So many times he spoke strongly against arms dealers, against the arms race, and against war. Recently, journalist Michel Serra remarked that 50 atomic bombs are enough to destroy humanity. But in the world now, atomic bombs are not 50. They are 15,000. War destroys, Pope Francis has said in September 2014 at the military shrine of Reggio Puglia on the centenary of the outbreak of the First World War. It also ruins the most beautiful work of his hands, human beings. War ruins everything, even the bonds between brothers. War is irrational. Its only plan is to bring destruction. It seeks to grow by destroying more. In this prophecy, often unheard by the great but welcomed by many people around the world, Pope Francis follows in the footsteps of his predecessors of the last century, who, like him, had to deal with the world wars, with wars in different areas of the planet, with violence and terrorism. So, what can the Pope do now that people are being shot and killed again? Perhaps nothing more than praying to the Lord, the journalist Giovanni Valente recently wrote, begging for the miracle of shortening the pain of the poor, of ending the slaughter. But if he will be able to do something on the political diplomatic level, it will only be possible because the Russian leaders know that he is not a biased mediator, a camouflaged agent of the West, with which they have entered into an apocalyptic collision course. The successor of Peter does not have the problem of making known which side he is on, because the vicar of Christ, like his Lord, is always with the innocent who suffer as Jesus suffered on the cross. Every word he says, every attempt he makes, is aimed at saving human lives, at not yielding to the logic of evil, at fighting evil with good, and saving humanity. In the heart of Europe, in this dirty war that we feel so close to us, as well as in the peripheries of the world, where in these years forgotten wars have been fought and are being fought, with their daily grim count of dead, wounded, IDP, internally displaced persons, is a sad list to which Ukraine has been added as the most recent victim. My words. Let us now cry out joining our voices with the deepening darkness with Pope Francis, to cry out for the cessation of companies and people who profit off death and war. All of the arms makers and those who supply munitions to any national army, so therefore no, someone must go to see who made their weapons, bullets, mortar rounds, ground-to-air missiles, all and every type of ammunition for every type of weapon, including the dumbest, most redundant titled munition, the anti-personal munitions. For what else would they be for but anti-personal? Do they make anti-rat armaments? Anti-road armaments? Anti-everything but personnel armaments? All who profit, all who hold so much as a single share of stock through their 401k, such as GD, General Dynamics, the builders of the large and the small. They are builders of ICBMs with capabilities to hit the opposite side of the world, for it was their discovery of how satellites can guide them from the United States all the way to Brazil, to Australia, to the Antarctic. Why we would bomb those places, I don't know, but they wanted to show that they could, if they wanted to. General Dynamics is the major supplier of arms to all branches of the US military and to 16 EU countries. GD is included in every major and 75% of minor 401k portfolios. Every handgun manufacturer in the world is included in every registered Roth and standard 401k to activate the purchasing power. The most minor gun manufacturer, the smallest company with smallest market share, only 16% of their market. But these stock of market purchases are great hedges against downturns, because guns and arms always sell well when the world's economy is struggling. That is why the 401k and hedge markets put these into their portfolios. But this means that you all listening to this own stock in death. If you, through a 401k or annuity, hold any of these or other makers of arms, you are among the sinners, carrying the burden for each death of an innocent. A sin so profound, so egregious, that these purchases are advocated by the likes of Putin and every thug dictator in South America, for these financial devices make them and all of their disgusting oligarchs richer. The 7 richest Russian oligarchs hold controlling interests in 15 of the world's largest arms makers for national militaries. And as you now work to justify your support of the devil's work, step away and vow to make your 401k or other investment tools to divest of all arms makers and the makers of all bullets, projectiles, weapon munitions, and everything that can kill a child. Do it. And do it now.